Welcome to the Stop Shrinking Socialcast. I'm your host, Julia Mallory. This series of interviews examines what it means to shrink. Shrinking isn't just playing it small, but it's any time that we do the opposite of what allows us to honor our truth. This series will feature dope and dynamic people that demonstrate the complex layers and resilience of the human spirit. Their lived examples show us that perfection isn't required for living one's purpose. Let's get into it. Renita Walker sews and sings. You can find her work on Facebook at Redo and Renew and her music at renitawalker.bandcamp.com. Renita, thank you so much for joining me for the Stop Shrinking Socialcast. I'm so glad you could be here today.
I'm excited. I listened to the first Socialcast and I was like, absolutely, let's go.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Anytime we release a new project or something out into the world, it's kind of like, okay, I feel good about what I did, but I also still hope that it's well received.
Sure. And it's like tending a baby. You feel real personal about it. It's you want to make sure that you're happy with it, but you want people to enjoy it and be, moved and blessed by it as well.
Yes. And I've been getting good feedback on the first episode. So thank you also for listening and engaging with it.
It was awesome.
So let's get into our interview. Tell me one way that you used to shrink.
Probably the biggest way that I used to shrink is in not acknowledging my own dopeness, if you will. And like, well, it's not that good. It's not that, just not really being strong in a sense of like, no, I'm a creative and I create dope things. And not in, an arrogant way. It doesn't make me better. I was just having this conversation this morning with a friend. It doesn't make me better than anybody else. But when I create something, it's pretty doggone dope. I like it. And it's okay to have that sense of who you are and what you're put on this earth to do, and know that it's a great thing coming out of you. It's really beautiful. So that's probably the biggest way that I just, I was taught to be a supporting actor in somebody else's life, as many of us were. And the episode with Hippolyta that you posted, I was like, that is it. I was taught to be a supporting actor in somebody else's life and not to have, not my own dreams and visions for my life were not really supported. So, really rooting into that, like, hey, hold on now. I'm here to do some things too. And they're dope things, and really being confident in who I am and what I'm put here to do I'm there.
Okay. No, and I think downplaying one's dopeness, right, is way too common. And I often think I remember a couple years ago, I was just seeing a whole lot of discussions around humility, right? And I was like, damn, I feel like people are calling for humility when they really want people to be modest, right? And then I was thinking, well, modesty is when we downplay our greatness or our dopeness, and humility is just simply recognizing that you're dope and that other people can be dope, right? It doesn't require us to shrink, right? It doesn't require us to shrink. Let me see. I just was getting, it doesn't require us to shrink. So, I'm sorry, I had a little hiccup because I thought I lost your audio. So
no, but I'm also starting to hear, I don't know what's going on outside. I feel like they're doing something out here, and I don't know if that's loud for you too.
Nope, I can't really hear it. So I think we'll be good.
We're still here.
Yeah. But so I think so many of us have gotten to that, like, oh, we can't really celebrate ourselves. And I don't believe that the way that we are divinely created requires us to not walk in our light, like to not acknowledge that. And I always wonder, you said I was raised to be a supporting, cast or supporting actor in someone else's dream. And that also makes me wonder sometimes, you know how so many of us are always like, oh no, I'm cool playing the back. I'm cool playing I'm cool playing the background. And sometimes I don't know if that's just what we think we're supposed to say or if people really feel that way.
You
Right?
know, I think it's what we're supposed to say. And so I was raised in church, and there's a lot of, all of the church members are supporting cast members for this pastor's vision.
Mm-hmm.
And often we're not taught, yes, I can be an usher at this church, but that doesn't mean I don't have a vision for my own life. And that doesn't mean that God didn't create me to do something that is uniquely for me to do. It does not look necessarily like this pastor's vision, but it is a vision for me, like I said, that I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only me on this planet, and I'm the only one that can do it. And so sometimes I think you're right. Sometimes I don't know that people really believe that. But there's fear, that people will think you're arrogant, or oh, you done got too big for yourself. And you
Humble yourself before God humble you. And it's like, I don't know.
well, God created me this way, so I mean, God created me dope. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that? But it is, humility. I do think that piece of it doesn't make me better than anybody else. It just makes me the only me.
Right. And even when you mentioned it, so you mentioned Hippolyta, and when you said also, like, I can do this thing over here, I can serve the ministry, I can, support someone else's vision too, but I can also have my own. And I think about Hippolyta's clip, right? When she's having that conversation with her husband, when she's having that conversation and him having to acknowledge, like, I really was drawn to you because I already knew you were dope, right? I already knew there was the word he used was discoverer, right? Mm-hmm. I already knew there was a discoverer in you. So sometimes we think, we forget that that's why people sometimes are drawn to us, because they already see the light in us.
Yes.
Too often we're like looking for someone to kind of affirm or bring the light to us and give us this thing and go forth. But it's like, no, sometimes people are already drawn to you because they see the light. But isn't it interesting how he even acknowledged, like, yeah, I was drawn to you because I saw the discoverer. And then I kind of just let you like shrink because I needed to get what I needed from you. Right.
And listen, my husband and I had a very similar conversation.
Okay.
They talk about the 7-year itch. And we've been together 14 years. And I think it's like 7 to 10 years. But I think itch is misguided in a way. But what it is around 7 to 10 years, you start renegotiating, like, okay, hold on. What have I given? What do I want back? How do I want to continue to engage this relationship? And we talked about, we actually just had this conversation last night because I was like, I'm getting ready to go on this podcast and Socialcast, and I'm thinking about these questions. And I tried to shrink because I was afraid that he would not appreciate the full me. But the more that I'm me, the more that I'm fully me and fully root into my own power, the more he's like, okay, all right then, girl, I see you. And he said, the thing that attracted me to you initially was how unique you are and how different you are and how you show up in the world. He was like, so yeah, the more you do that, yes, the more attractive it is. And it's so counterintuitive to what we think it's going to be. We think if we shrink, people will like us more and people will accept us more and we won't offend anybody and we won't. But really, when we are shining, people are like, okay, who is this? Let me see what's going on over here.
Right. And I think, so there's so many layers there. Like there's so many layers there because sometimes, I remember it's this expression, like sometimes people get with a free bird just to want to clip your wings, right? Sometimes, and so that reminds me of George and Hippolyta, right? He saw that discoverer, but then he needed her wings clipped so that he can kind of go on about his affairs comfortably. And then I think even when you mentioned kind of the 7-year itch, or it's the idea that people will stay static. It's the idea that your desires and that you won't continue to grow and fully walk in your light. And so it is, hopefully we will all be blessed with a union that allows us to realize that that's just life, that people are not going to stay the same, right? At the core, you have these certain traits, right? But how maybe that shows up in the world or manifests might completely change. And so looking for the space to be able to do that. And we know that everybody's not going to want to be, everyone is not going to see it for us in our light, but those are not people, right? Like,
Right.
I think that's sometimes when we're looking at it and we're just like, but when you said another thing, because I have another interview that's coming up, and one of the things we talked about is that when we think people are going to be comfortable with our shrinking, that sometimes what also happens is it changes the chemistry of a relationship, because I think sometimes people know when we're lying to them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when people see you walking around your half self, it's like it breeds mistrust because they're like, I
And
know it
resentment.
ain't you.
And resentment.
And resentment on both parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, you don't trust me enough to be your full self with me. And then you resentful because you like, I felt like I could never be my full self with you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Hippolyta in that anger.
And especially if that person recognizes that you are your full self in some other area.
Right.
So like when I create, if I'm designing, last year, this time, I did a show in my hometown, designed this costume that was slamming.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my full creative self into that thing. And so then you see people like, okay, so hold on. So you giving yourself to this creative project, but you don't give yourself to me in this relationship fully like that. And so it's almost like whatever that other thing is that you will show up fully for becomes your mistress
Mm.
or your mister, whatever. But yeah, I think it does breed some mistrust and resentment and anger that like there's all of you, and people that are your people really do want to experience you in your fullness. And when you
Yes.
hide from them, it's kind of an insult.
Right. I want to see you shine. I want you, like, I want your eyes to dazzle like that when, you
When
know, when
right.
we're together, right? I want to be able to experience I want to also be able, if people really love you, they want to be able to share that joy with you. And when you're
Mhm.
not your full self, you also are robbing them of that opportunity. I also see, like, you're wearing your whose permission do you need, put yourself on.
Yes.
That also makes me think too of how sometimes we're waiting for folks. That's where the resentment I think also comes from, because sometimes we're also waiting for people to like make it comfortable, make it safe.
Mhm.
Like tell me that it's guaranteed that if I'm my full self that you won't change. And I
Mhm.
think we have to stop putting that burden and responsibility on people. Like I think that shifts the dynamics of our relationships too, when we are like we giving people way too much power over our lives that they don't deserve and that they don't even need. Like
Well, right.
like you give yourself permission to do those things, you give yourself permission, that's your power. And I think when we try to misplace it on other people, because even in that scene George tried to like retreat and was like, oh, I didn't know, and she was like, you
Yes, you
knew,
did. Yes, you
right?
did.
You knew. And she was angry about it.
She
She was
was.
angry about it. But that scene was a reckoning of her not looking for his permission, but taking her own permission and said, oh no, but this is what it's gonna be. Right?
And
This
we're
is
gonna talk about it.
and we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna confront it, we're gonna put the thing out there, we're gonna acknowledge it, and then we're gonna work through it. If
Yeah.
you so choose to. If
And
you
if
so
you don't, that's your business. And I think that's a different healing place to come from, especially if like I have trauma in my background. So if you have any kind of trauma, there is a very real visceral reaction to the fear of being abandoned.
yes,
You feel it in your body. You
yes.
know that if I am my full self, this person is going to turn away, is going to run away. And I've had a ton of therapy, let me say that. And if you have trauma, if anybody is watching, listening, if you have trauma in your background, therapy really is your best friend, with
Yes.
trauma informed therapists that can help you work through some of those things that really are keeping you stuck and are very, very real.
Yes.
And so as I worked through that trauma, getting to a place where I could say, look, I have to be who I am. If you want to engage with who I am, you're more than welcome to do so. If you don't want to engage with who I am, you are more than welcome to leave.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not
And I
glad to
definitely
be with you.
thank you for bringing up trauma. Thank you for bringing up therapy, because I definitely don't want to minimize the ways in which a lot of our shrinking is tied up into a trauma response, right? A
Mhm.
lot of us have been through some real things. A lot of us have been through difficulty. And so our attachment issues, our abandonment issues, a lot of that's what, when you talked about the comfortability piece of, wanting folks to be comfortable or not wanting to, some of the shrinking is just so that we can, like, people will be okay with us. And
Mhm.
so I totally, I don't want to minimize that, y'all, because I know like, I know that is a real thing for many of us. And thank you for, like I said, for bringing up therapy, because listen, therapy saves lives.
Listen, and it's not even just that we want to please the other people. These are responses that have kept us safe.
Right, right. Thank you. I lost my kind of train of thought. I lost my train of thought there, and you brought it back. I wanted that piece right there. It wasn't just like you said. Some of us, it kept us alive. Right?
Literally.
It kept us alive. So absolutely, yes.
Yeah, literally alive. So I'm glad that, and I have seen, as I watch your social media presence, that, if you Black in this country, you got some trauma.
Right.
And acknowledging, being Black is beautiful. The way that this system treats Black folks ain't beautiful at all. So being able
Right.
to acknowledge that some of that shrinking is perhaps due to home of origin trauma, perhaps due to societal, systemic trauma, but being able to acknowledge, okay, this isn't going to be as easy as me just like, all right, let me show up in my power, but that I may have some things that I need to heal to get there. And it's okay, like, and normal to, one of the things I love, I do some Coach Stacey Jordan Shelton, has some programs that I love and does some coaching. And one of the things that she helped me, accept is everybody needs support.
Right.
And it's okay. Different people need different kinds of support. Whatever kind of support you need, it's okay. It's okay to get the support that you need, so that you can thrive, so that you can come into this full sense of yourself, so that you can stop shrinking, even with yourself.
Right.
So yeah, if you need therapy, get some.
Right. Therapy, life coaching. There's a variety of mechanisms
So many.
be able to get that therapeutic healing support that you need. So therapy can look like multiple things for people. So I hope that folks will consider the full breadth of what's available to get us healed.
I hope so, because I'll tell you, the combination of therapy with coaching has really just kind of, there were some places that I was stuck, that I just really struggled, to kind of get over the hump in a way. And combining those two things, along with, really expanding my spirituality with the way that I look at spirituality. Because like I said, I was raised in the church, with some very strong white evangelical teaching. So being able to expand my spirituality beyond that very narrow religious realm has just been helpful for me uh, in getting free. I mean, let's just put it right there.
Call a thing a thing.
And get free. Because a lot of us are bound. That's part of the shrinkage, that we are bound in the teaching that we've been indoctrinated with.
Yes, we have been, and I always love when Stacey says, ain't nothing wrong with Black folks that white supremacy didn't help create, right? And so I
That
think
part.
for so many of us, like, really trying to unearth how much of a number has been done on us, right? In so many different spaces. It can be a lot. It can be a lot. And it's not something that we're going to be able to heal all at one time.
It's a
right?
journey.
It's absolutely a journey. So, Renita, tell me, I feel like, oh my God, I feel like we went some places with that first question, and I'm thankful. Tell me your work in progress, the area where you're like, you know what? I'm getting this thing figured out around my shrinking. I'm not all the way where I want to be, but I'm on my way. Tell me what that work in progress area is related to shrinking for you.
So I have stopped shrinking in my personal relationships. So I'm like, yeah, we did it. And so now as I'm getting ready to launch some things into the world, um, perfectionism crops up for me.
Mm,
And recognizing, one, there is no perfect.
right.
And two, that perfectionism is perhaps a tool that I've used to hide. Because if it's not perfect, I just can't put it out there.
Right, right. And I know it's like you holding these two, it gotta be perfect, but ain't no such thing as perfect. So since ain't no thing is perfect, it ain't never gonna come out.
Ain't never gonna come out. It ain't never gonna come out. And so just like biting the bullet in some ways, like, you know what, ma'am, this is your deadline.
Right, right.
We're done here.
And let go.
We're done here. This is the deadline. Send the stuff. Let's go. And so I'm still working on kind of transferring that, like, I'm dope. What I'm bringing to the world is dope.
Right.
And when I let it shine, my people will find me.
Right.
The people that I am here to influence, the people that I'm here to touch, the people that need to hear my story told in my way, they will find me. Mm-hmm. And it ain't got to be perfect, because they ain't perfect.
And what is it anyway, right? Like, it's so interesting, right, that we have even that description on around our projects. Is it like that there's no missing periods? Is it that it was 100 pages exactly, or that it was, 4 outfits or 4 songs? Like,
right.
What is perfect in relationship to creativity, which is supposed to be a function of our wildest imagination?
Right.
So right. What could perfect even mean in this context?
Right.
Except for the delaying tactic.
Except that I'm telling you, as the more that I think about it, the more that I'm like, oh, that's just the tool that I use to talk myself out of showing up.
No, I love that. Like, I love what you just said. I'm a crystallize it with that sentence, right? Perfectionism is just the tool I use to talk myself out of showing up. Y'all heard this from Renita.
That's it.
Perfectionism is just the tool I use to talk myself out of showing up. We got.
And I tell you, one of the things that I'm doing to combat the perfectionism is falling in love with my stuff. Mm-hmm. So whether it is my music or my fashion that I'm designing, is really falling in love with it. It's looking at it, is, listening to it and being like, you know what, I like this, and finding all the places, because what I tend to do is find the things that I don't like, mm-hmm. and pick them apart. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, but what do I like about it? What are the things I like? Let me pick up those things more so than I pick up, because I'm sure I can always find something that, I could tweak that, or I could do that different. I could do that. And that can be information for moving forward. Mm-hmm. The next time I do it, I want to do this, but it can't keep me from putting myself out into the world. It can't keep me from using my gifts. It can't keep me from engaging and connecting with the world around me. Otherwise, like, I have determined at this point in my life, I'll be 44 this month. And I have determined at this point in my life that I am not leaving this earth with any of this left in me.
Right.
I'm just not. I'm going to pour it all out.
There is nothing, I think it's so interesting, like when we talk about, I don't know, especially when you're doing creative projects, like, I think that's why I say to people, like, please love what you're doing. Like, love what you're doing, not just because other people said it's the thing you should be doing, or you saw people get 5,000 followers because they did the similar thing. If you love what you're doing and you put it out in the world, you can never go wrong.
You can't.
If you love what you're doing, and the thing with that is, if I release what I love, right? If I release what I love, it's just so easy. I feel like it's so much easier to really celebrate it. I feel like it's easy to really engage with it. And there's nothing wrong with recalibrating. Like once you release it, sometimes you got to recalibrate. You're like, oh, okay, that didn't quite go off as I intended. But it's weird to me as a creative because sometimes I put things out in the world. And people see things in it that it's like they see things that you never intended, right? They assign their own meaning and own value to it. So even when you release it, it's like it's yours, but then the people
but
own
it's
it.
really not.
Right. The people own it anyway. So it's kind of like you holding on to it for 9 years. Like
for what?
For what? I remember my first book, I was working on my first book, and I was talking to some older creatives, some older poets and writers. And he was like, one of the gentlemen was like, Julie, how's the project coming along? And I was like, I'm working on it. It's just taking me a little bit longer than usual. And he was like, look, it don't take a baby but 9 months to be born. And so when he said that, as a mom who has birthed children, I was like, oh, wait.
True.
If a whole human life.
A whole human.
Can be created in 9 months. Yeah, it's time for me to let this thing go and put it out into the world. And I was like, you're right. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And to be clear, there is there's some fear and trepidation about how people will receive it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, if I'm putting out what I love,
yes, it's yours first. Right? Yes. It's our first. We gotta love it. And that's why I think people give me suggestions all the time. And I try to sometimes I gracefully it's like, oh, thank you, but no thank you. Because sometimes it literally is like, listen, I know I'm not gonna see it to fruition if I don't love it.
Listen.
I think that's a good idea. But if I didn't get a feeling when you said, hey, here's an idea, if I didn't feel anything, I'm gonna need that feeling once in a while to remind me why I even started doing the thing in the first place. So if that feeling didn't wash over me, I don't feel anything, it's like, it's not gonna work because I don't have a connection to it. Right. It's not coming from an organic place. And because of that, because we know this work also is real work, it's real investment. If I don't have a thing that's reminding me every once in a while I started, there's no incentive for me to continue. There just isn't. So
not to mention, creativity for me is a matter of connection to the divine, the ancestors,
yes,
to myself,
yes,
and then to others. Yes. And so if I am not feeling divinely inspired by the thing,
yes,
it falls flat. It comes out flat. It's like, and people it feels flat to people. They can like it, but they're like, it was okay. And so when I know that, and I would say this to any creatives that will experience this interview, there is nothing wrong with quitting a thing, with determining, this is not working out. I don't love this. Let me go ahead and start something that I do love and conserve the time and energy that you're spending on something that you don't even love, but you're doing it because someone told you should, or you're good at it. So for instance, years ago, I have a degree in radio, TV broadcast, so I know how to do those things. And I did them at a church for a while. And it was cool because I could do it. It was a skill that I had. But what I really wanted to do, what I was divinely inspired to do, was sing. So meanwhile, people are at the front, they singing, they worshiping, and I'm back here pushing the buttons and levers.
Telling yourself like, oh, I'm okay playing the back.
I'm fine because I'm skilled to do this thing. I know how to do this and I do it well. And if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? And all of those things. And it was a flat experience because what I really wanted to do was be up there, right. And so it's okay to say, what, this ain't the thing that I want. This isn't it. It's cool. I can do it. I even may be skilled at doing it, but it ain't the thing that makes me come alive.
Right. And I think that's the thing too. When we are kind of in these positions, especially when we're in positions attached to supporting kind of an overall vision, sometimes we think like, oh, if I don't do it, then who is going to do it? But it's also been my experience that when you are taking a seat at the table that you really don't want, right, you are occupying a space that somebody who is enthusiastic could be
Could be
having,
occupied.
right? You in that space, there could be a person that just graduated from college, just like, you know what, this is really my lane, right? This is really where I want to be. They have enthusiastic participation as opposed to kind of this lukewarm, I'm here,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I'm
I
here with
showed
my
up.
rights. I think, listen, our work, our creativity, right, what we're called to do, and people, I think also we get comfortable like hiding it, right? Again, with that, I'm okay with the background. People, I don't know what I've been called to do. I mean, I don't know if that's true for everybody. Sometimes I think we're just afraid to call it out. I think sometimes we just don't want to acknowledge it because maybe it's not what everybody thinks we should be doing. Maybe it's not a thing that's going to make us popular or put our name in lights, right? Maybe it seems small by other measures, but I'm like,
Or it seems big.
or what, even the big thing, right? Because even the big thing, I'm like, you know, the big thing that's sitting at the center of your heart, but sometimes
Mhm.
it's easier, I think, to really shrink from the quiet thing, right? From the more like everyday ordinary thing.
Mm.
I think sometimes people always like the calling or the purpose always had to be like this really gigantic vision, like that was, you know, supposed to kind of shake the earth and do all of these things. But it's like sometimes it's just all those moving parts working together. And maybe you got a vision that was to do something that was maybe more what we would consider to be ordinary,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Something that's not going to put our name in lights.
You know
And
what? As I'm thinking about that though, like, so I've been a chaplain for the last 10 years. So
okay.
basically providing spiritual first aid at the bedside,
Mm.
because illness is very
I love
difficult.
that description.
Illness
Spiritual
is
first aid.
first aid. I mean, really is first aid because our hope is that you're connected to your spirituality outside of the hospital, but illness isolates you from that.
Right.
We really are spiritual first responders in that we're trying to stop any kind of bleeding, that you may have. You may be in spiritual crisis. And I find that the ordinary often is where the magical happens because when I meet with these folks at their bedside, we are engaging in these really magical moments of connection and healing. And so I love that you talked about the ordinary because honestly, that everyday ordinary
Mhm.
is where the magic happens, it's where the connection happens. And I think you're right. Shrinking away from like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, when actually it may be a bigger deal than the big, big thing.
Right. Right. And I hate even using kind of these binary terms to
They
like,
are.
to be like, oh, it's ordinary or it's magical. It's not gonna put your name in lights. It's not gonna make you popular. Like as if that like really diminishes the real intrinsic value that comes from whatever the work may be for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I think I knew you were a chaplain. Um, I didn't know that you had been doing it for 10 years.
10 years. This year was my anniversary.
That is incredible.
It's been life changing. It has
I,
been life changing. I see myself and um, loved ones and folks that I have unfinished business with in the bed in the body of another person.
uh-huh.
And to keep from running away when you see that, you got to do your work. And I know that's your, I know that's your, that's your hashtag, but you have to do your work to be able to provide care to people who, oh my gosh, this person, relational dynamic we have going on here reminds me a whole lot of the person that abused me, but that's not this person. So you really have to be able to do your work to provide that space for someone who is hurting in the moment, even though they trigger your stuff too.
Right.
They're hurting. And it really is that engagement with hurting people for me is part of what I know that I'm here to do, to hold space for folks who are having a very, very bad day, to be able to say, this sucks.
Right.
This is awful. This is not, yeah, no, this is bad business right here. And to be able to sit with them in it, you got to do your own work so that you're not running from your own stuff.
Right. You got to be able to show up fully as yourself, as your best self. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me your non-negotiable, the area where in your life where you're like, you know what? I'm no longer shrinking here. I have settled this. It's not negotiable. Tell me about that area in your life, Renita.
I am finally at the place where I believe in, and it's a growing belief, but I believe in my ability to sustain myself with my creative gifts. And as I move towards that, you either gonna believe with me and get on this bus or get on. Or get on. That is one place for me where I'm like, no, that's the path that I'm on. And it's taken me like, I think I released my first CD 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. And I had this long pause in between shrinking and trying to fit in this mold and trying to fit in that mold and trying to do the thing that I was supposed to do. And, oh, you have these gifts, you should do this. And, oh, you have these gifts, you should do this. And doing all those things. And let me tell you something about these 40s. These 40s, I'm like, hey, look, listen, I can do a lot of things, but this is what I'm about to do. This is, and I think it's expanding my mind to where, yes, I am created to engage with hurting people. The vocation is not the thing. I can do this in a million different ways.
Yes.
And so, growing and expanding on what that will look like and how to show up fully as myself creatively within the world. That is the path that I'm on. I'm coming out. We get us cue Diana, and support it or move out my way.
Right. No, I love that for you in this season, and I think definitely, we just had the first interview with Deanna, and she talked about the sustainability of our businesses and our talents. And I think that it's what's on our mind, right? It's what we worry about, because it's like, yeah, I know I'm doing these good things, but I also have bills. I also like eating.
Listen,
I also like heat.
Listen, and warm water and all that.
Right. But I think that I don't care who you are in this world, you deserve to give yourself a chance, right? Like you said, I don't want to leave this earth with all this stuff still inside of me. And if we don't ever give ourselves a chance, because sometimes I find that the thing that it's also possible for the thing that we are in pursuit of, it's the pursuit that is also there to show us maybe possibly the path that we really are supposed to take. We're going to meet a lot of people. We're going to meet a lot of ideas. We're going to engage with a lot of different areas. And if we never set out to do it, maybe the real vision may not be revealed to us, or layers to the vision may not be revealed to us. So if nothing else, we have to give ourselves a chance. And I'm glad that you are giving yourself a chance in this season. In the 40s.
Come on. And one of the things that I learned in the last 10 years, I have been at a lot of bedsides with a lot of regretful people. And often I ask, if there's a lesson that you want to give to the people that you love, or even give to me, what would it be? And for a lot of them, it's leave nothing undone. Do the thing. Right. Because one day you're going to be in this bed, and it's going to be probably before you planned on it or before you know it. Right. And you're going to wish you had done all of these things that were inside of you, all these dreams that you had, all these visions, and do them, right. Live them, pour it out, so that when your time comes, you can go and you can be peaceful in your acceptance that you have lived well and you have loved well. So I think in this, I say to people, you are forever on my journey when I meet them at the hospital, because they are. The lessons that they give me are forever on my journey. And, after 10 years, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to hear that lesson not one more time. I hear you all collectively, all of these souls that I have been able to engage with that have touched me and blessed me. And I'm ready to, at least, like you said, set off on the path and see what happens and enjoy going along this path and meeting different people and experiencing different things that I would not experience if I hadn't set out on this path. So it's going to be a good time no matter what.
It's going to be a good time no matter what. And I think, the journey is equally important. I think we put a lot of emphasis these days on like the arrival or just the end result. But the journey is wonderful and can be important and special and unique as well. But it's just interesting to me that in your work over the 10-year period as a chaplain, that it seems like you basically have gotten this like singular lesson. That it's like, okay, maybe I'm envisioning that you're like doing all of this, the bedside spiritual maintenance or first aid and thinking, okay, maybe today will be the day somebody gives me a different word. And it's like, nope, got the same word.
The same word.
Same word.
For 10 years, people are like, please live the dream. What dreams do you have? Please live them. Please live them.
And so you, in this moment, you are uniquely qualified to tell us this message. Like, you are uniquely qualified to say, I've been doing this for 10 years, y'all. This is literally, this is the word.
This is it.
Is the word. Like, we hear it. Like, I think people hear it, right? Philosophically, we hear it. But if you don't receive it another time, please receive it from Renita right now, giving us this word. Like,
please live the dream. What is inside of you that you're here to do?
Right. I don't feel like, and that's the thing that always intrigues me, because I'm like, I don't know, like, why did you hear the thing that I'm not hearing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, some people ain't getting the word to be a poet. Some people are not getting the word to do grief work. Some people are not getting the word to do BlackMermaids or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, then that must be the word that I was supposed to get when I got it. So when people also be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I'm like, you ain't get no word. The word ain't come to you.
You ain't get nothing. One of the questions that I like to ask folks at the bedside, because often, and I work in psych as well. Mm-hmm. And so often when people are in a psychiatric crisis, what happens is their imagination is truncated. It's cut off at a certain point, and trauma does that as well. Yes. And so often I ask the question, it's used in psychology all the time, the miracle question. If you woke up tomorrow and a miracle had happened while you slept, what would things look like? What would your life be like? And often, or the other question, if money was no object, if you had all your needs taken care of, what would you be doing? Because often that can help people drill down into, what am I here in this world to do? What would I do if I didn't have to worry about bills? Mm-hmm. What would I be doing? Well, shoot, I'd be singing and sewing. Okay, well, then there it is.
Right.
And so for people to, give themselves permission to dream and like the freedom to do it, because sometimes you don't have the space. If you're worried about bills and you're worried about your health and you're worried about a pandemic and you're worried about...
Inability to dream and to name our dreams is also a trauma response, right? Even the way the anticipatory grief keeps us from saying, I want to do a thing because it may not last, right? Mm-hmm. Even just feeling like we have control or agency over our life. That's why I even do a writing workshop called The Naming of Dreams, just to say to folks like, okay, y'all, let's hone our personal power, right? It's okay for us to dream. And also I wanted to say too, you just said singing and sewing. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a memoir. That sounds like the title of a memoir. But I
like that.
I know you said it yourself. I'm just giving it back to you.
Well, it's funny though, because my prayers, that's what I say to the divine. I just want to sing and so. I just want to sing and so. That's all I want to do. Just want to sing and so. And really, like, that's all. I just want to sing and so.
But it's like, look how accessible those things literally are to you. You know, you literally have your threads behind you. Your voice is already divinely created. Like, it's literally already here.
It's right here.
It's like the crown is already here. You just, like Baldwin says, you just got to put it on. Right. You just got to put it on. And so that's why with the expression an easier assignment is not coming. Right. When I say that, because like I said, I don't know if we didn't get the word, is that I feel like you kind of got that inner office memo. Right. And you open it. And you're like, I don't know if this is for me. You know, you're like, I don't know. I'm going to send this to another department. Or I'm still waiting on the assignment that I really enjoy, or the assignment is going to, I don't know what assignment people are waiting on. But that's why I say, I don't know if an easier assignment is coming. Whatever that means, like if it's a complicated thing or it puts you in a situation that you feel complicates your life. But it's like the assignment has been issued. And when we talk about, and when I say easier, it's not that it's there to torture you. But I think for some of us, sometimes we already kind of are low-key torturing ourselves by not answering the call, right? Yeah. So when I'm saying easier, it's like, you know, life is hard. Pick your hard. Because it's like, it got to be hard to constantly be dragging that thing with you all the time. Like, that got to be hard. So,
one of the, in this 10 years of these folks giving me these messages, part of why they're giving it to me is because they have lived that hard. The number of people that say, oh, I'm running from my assignment, I'm running from my calling. Right. And part of what they're running from is what they think it has to look like. Right. So, as we can, and let me, then to be clear, Black folks in this country we have been pushed into this narrow box of what we're allowed to have. And so, it could be very hard to dream outside of the box and see something bigger than this little square of what we've been permitted to have. Right. But being able to say, actually, it might look like something I've never seen before. I might be creating something that just doesn't exist yet. Right. And this, which is a scary kind of thing, but can also be liberating. Like, okay, well, I don't have to do this any way that doesn't work for me. I can do it how I need to do it. And that could be with any of the callings, even the things that are well established, right? I'm even as myself, I'm like acknowledging that, like, oh, I'm a poet, but I can do poetry the way I do poetry, right? I can manifest it in the world in a way that is what I'm supposed to do, because we have a lot of the other stuff or whatever. It doesn't, and I think also too, trying to be insular about that piece, like trying to like not get too worried about how it looks for everybody else. Like just really being honest. And like you said, how did I get the inspiration? How did that divine download happen? Like what did my creator, like what word did I get? What did the ancestors come through with? Like how is it supposed to come forth, and not being so concerned about what already exists or how it exists, like really being focused on the word that you got, because you didn't get the word to go out and make a duplicate. Like you didn't get the uniquely divine download for you to go out and just like carve a thing. Like that's why you got it. Right. Like, that's why the hell you got the word. Because it's your word. Your word, your work. Go forth. Prosper. Do your thing. And I know you talked about scarcity in the Socialcast that's out right now too, because I do think it's tied to that. The thought that, oh man, there's already somebody out there doing what I'm trying to do. There's not enough room for everybody, but there really is. there really is enough room for, I mean, and if everybody is created to shine, all the stars shine, they don't care nothing about the star right next to them shining. Like, this is what we're created to do, is shine in our uniqueness. And there is enough for everyone. When you got top tier billionaires who can hoard literally more money than they can spend in 2, 3, 4, 5 lifetimes, there's enough. Now, distribution is a whole different thing, but there is enough.
Right. And I get it. And that's why I said too, I hope that whenever I give a word, please understand that it is not propping up, white supremacy and capitalism and all this other nonsense. It literally is like, okay, we know what's out there. We know those challenges and we know that. And so what does it look like for you to try to figure out and carve out your space to do your work, considering all the real obstacles that exist in this place, right? And so even when we say somebody else is already doing the thing, it's like, yeah, but some people gonna need to hear the word from you. Somebody's already talking about X, Y, and Z, but somebody's gonna need that X, Y, and Z from you.
From you. From you.
You need the X, Y, Z from you, because you got to free yourself first before you can think about freeing anybody else. But trust and believe that there's some folks that are going to need to get the thing from you. There are going to be some people that are already comfortable with you, that already see a light, that already are attracted to the thing that's in you. And for whatever reason, you can help them in a way that maybe they couldn't receive it from another source. So the idea, and I think, and I get it, even with capitalism and kind of the scarcity mindset too that exists, like capitalism literally, that is embedded in it, right? Scarcity is embedded in it. Yeah. And so I know for some creatives too, the idea like, oh my God, okay, I'm supposed to sing, but is it gonna make me any money? I'm supposed to write poetry, but does that really make me any money? And I know those are genuine concerns. So I ain't trying to gaslight folks and act like, oh, that's not a real thing. But sometimes our gift, our calling isn't necessarily the thing. It looks different for everybody. Like, I think our gifts will make a way for us. Like, I do believe that, and that can look a variety of ways. But I think if we try, at least we can figure out what the way will be, right?
Yes, and I think my point in it is to not let that scare.
Yes.
Don't let it scare you away because you haven't figured it out yet. Just keep moving on that path.
Like Deanna said, that's the fear. So it is funny, we're hearing you say scare, like scarcity. Oh, I'm scared. It literally is like part of the word.
Yeah. But to get on the path and keep moving, and to be clear, I still work a part-time job, and I will, and I'm figuring it out as I go along, and I'm figuring out how to engage with my creative work and how to set my time up in such a way where I honor the creative tasks that I want to do, honor my rest, honor what I need to do for my actual job to pay these bills and all of those things, and figuring out how to do it in a way that works for me, that works for my lifestyle, that works for, I've got minor children at home, I'm married, so it works for my family. I have an adult child. I'm a grandmother. So, I need all of these things to work in concert with each other so that I really am the best me, so that I am, honoring all of who I am and all of the things I need. And I also, want to say, for people that have chronic illness, I've got some chronic illness. And I think one of the other things that I'm learning to honor is that it doesn't look the same for me as it looks for other people, because I have different needs for rest. I have different needs for diet and exercise. I have different needs for medication that I'm on that have side effects that have, so that it is the path can be unique for everybody with all of their, all that they're bringing to that path. And we live in an ableist society. So if you can't churn it out and chug and keep going and, nearly kill yourself on the job, people act like you're not worth anything. So it's, all of that, giving myself permission, like, hey, sis, if you tired, go take a nap.
Please. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
really that simple. Go take a nap and have a snack. What you doing?
Yeah, my homegirl, Desiree of Nana Catherine's Apothecary out of Philly, she says that your calling won't leave you depleted.
My God.
Listen, and I think, thank you so much for bringing up ableism. Thank you so much for bringing up kind of this, like the way that we just feel like we got to keep going, and productivity and hustling and doing all of that. Because I do think it's rough. Like, I know it's rough. I know it's rough for folks. Like, and I will say this, like, it's your calling, it's your gifting, and you probably will have to figure out how it looks in your life. You will probably have to do some work in figuring out, how you manage multiple things. It might be, you might get some divine intervention and orchestration there, but then that means also that when it comes, you gotta like accept it, because sometimes, like you said, oh, my body told me I needed rest. Well, you got the word right there. Are you going to acknowledge it, or are you just going to act like your body didn't tell you that you needed something? Right. So I think that sometimes we just have to be, we got to be ready for it. Like, and it is okay. Us moving out in the world and our creative gifts, like, it probably is going to require some figuring out. But I like to believe, as Des said, that like our calling won't leave us depleted. I believe that. And so how do we find that balance, right? And I think even balance requires movement. So sometimes it is a kind of like,
moving,
a shifting and positioning. And you might figure it out, and then 3 more weeks, you're like, damn, I gotta figure it out again. Sometimes it doesn't look like that. And for me, my problem has been, I think it's my Taurus earthly nature, and this thing of change, that sometimes I'm like, oh, if I can't figure out how I can do it for 6 years, I don't want to do it. And so in my new season, I'm being okay with, Juliet, like, I don't figure it out today.
Listen, because sometimes that's all I got.
That's all. Listen, figure it out today, sis. You've been on this earth long enough. You're creative enough that you can figure it out tomorrow too. It's okay. Like, because I think that has been my challenge. Like, oh, girl, you ain't got to have it figured out for 6 years.
You really don't.
Maybe a week. You get through the week with, and the things will keep, coming through. The yeses will keep coming through, right?
And I like how you said,
figure it out.
Yeah, and I like how you said sometimes you get some divine intervention. Mm-hmm. A couple years ago, I was working full time, and I was like, I just want to sew and sing. Like, I just want to sew and sing. So I want to do. Like, I just want to. Like, if you look at my journals, if you look at my prayer, I just want to sew and sing. And I was offered a part-time job, and for some reason, I was like, well, I don't know. And I had some older Black folks around me that were like, if you don't take that job,
you ain't have to lean in the camera like that.
If you don't take that job. And I was like, really? Do you think? Is there like, oh my God, take the job. And that was a moment of divine intervention, because in taking the part-time job, the space was freed for me, one, to get more rest, because the full-time job was murdering me. Mm-hmm. Because I just don't have that kind of energy to give to a full-time job and then try to come be a mom, wife, creative on the weekend. I just don't have it. I just don't have it to give. And so that part-time job really was a piece of divine intervention that set me up to be able to have more time and space for rest, so that I am able to now pour more into, my creative work. But I'm telling you, I was like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. They were like, girl, take the job. Take the job.
Listen, I can so relate. I had a similar situation recently. I got a blessing, and then I was just like, some things got shook up, and I was like, okay, well, I'm so used to kind of having these set things, these set, financial opportunities or whatever. And I was just so quick to be like, okay, I'm gonna just jump right into the next thing. And then I was like, You doing it again, Julia. Like, give yourself a chance, right? You give yourself a chance to really let this new season fully blossom. Like, give yourself the space to let a new thing be done. You keep saying you want a new thing to be done, and you got the blessing, and you literally are getting ready to toss it back because you're so used to holding on to what you used to have. And it was just like, dang, I've really been doing that. I've really been doing that. And so it took me a second to realize that. And I ain't gonna lie, it took me 2 times. I would be lying if I said, like, it took me 2 times, because then there was another opportunity. I was like, oh, this would be perfect. And then it was like, I got the no. And I was like, you know what? And I dreamed about the no. Like, I dreamed that I got the no. And then I was like, dang. So I was still wrestling with, the dream, was it about just kind of my scarcity mindset that didn't think that I could earn this opportunity? And then when the real no came, it was like, no, because the way has already been made. Like, really, stop trying to stop trying to use your scarcity mindset to think that you don't have enough when you literally have exactly the same without all the other responsibilities, and you can really do your work in this season. So stop. So I was like, okay. That's what I said. I'm gonna be transparent. It took me 2 times within like.
Good job. Look, I feel like good job. 2 times. I
didn't get it the first time, and then it came over me again, and it was just like, oh, okay. So I am now committed to giving myself a real chance, but it took a second, because when you're so used to doing something. And it's the same, listen, like, be patient with yourself, because you've had these habits for a really long time. It's going to take probably a minute. If you're not a person that's really good with just cold turkey, a lot of us are not. So if you're not good with just stopping, it's going to take you a minute. It's going to take a second, and that's okay. Be patient with yourself.
Yeah. Something you said reminded me of a book that I used when I was training chaplains. So also do some education for folks that want to be chaplains. And we use this book called Transitions by William Bridges. It's one of I really, really enjoy this book. And he talks about kind of what to expect when you're in a transition. And I love the book because I don't know if anybody really explained to me like what it could feel like to be not at the old thing, but not quite at the new thing yet. And in that liminal space where it is like, oh, what are we doing? And there's this image of a trapeze artist where when they're swinging on the trapeze, they have to let go of this one and float to this next one, literally fly over there and float to this next one. And in between, they're just in space. And I think that liminal space, that in-between space where you're letting go of this thing, but you don't really know what the new thing is yet, it can be very disorienting, which is also a term I like to use for education. We have these disorienting experiences. It can be disorienting. And you don't kind of, which way is up at this point and what are we doing?
Like, it's like that SpongeBob meme where it's kind of like the little shaking thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of shaking. And like you said, to be patient with yourself in that liminal space that like, I don't have to have it all figured out right now. It's okay to be in this space of not knowing and trusting that, the divine, the God of my understanding, the universe, the ancestors, wherever it is that I believe has my wellness in mind, has good things for me in mind, is my sustaining source, whatever that thing is for people. It is a place to enter into my trust that they got me. They got me.
Yes.
It's going to be okay. I'm going to get to that next bar. It's coming. I'm going to grab it and I'm prepared to grab it. I've been doing this, I've been working. I've been doing my thing. I've been obeying this vision and this call, and I'm going to grab it when it comes. I'm ready. And in this space, I can trust that I have what I need and I'm okay.
Right.
I'm okay.
Right.
And that's again, that's a practice and a work.
Yes. Sure. Right. It definitely is not something that's just going to come to you overnight. So Renita, is there anything that, before we get out of here, is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say? Or anything you want to leave folks with?
Yeah, I think my hope when people hear me, whether I'm talking to somebody one-on-one at the bedside, whether someone is listening to my music, whether someone is wearing a head wrap, that they got. My hope is that they see me and they think, well, dang, she doing a doggone thing. And she just kind of a down to earth, regular person. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I might try to do my thug thizzle a little bit here, like that really is my hope for people that when they engage with me in whatever way they are engaging, whatever way they are coming, that they are inspired to seek out their own freedom, to tap into their own creativity and their own vision and their own call, and risk it a little bit. Step out there, put yourself out there. Somebody is waiting for you to be you.
Right.
And so that's my hope when I engage with people, that they will have some little more freedom than they had when they started this morning. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Well, Renita, this has been beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing so much of yourself with us. And I'm grateful. And I know this interview is going to absolutely resonate with folks. So again, thank you. And I will see you around these internet streets.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm honored.
See you soon, love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.